This is probably the largest gaming laptop that has ever graced our studio. This is the Asus ROG Strix G18 and it's got a whole new style going for it that's really striking. The crazy thing about this is the fact that the entire back of the laptop is one huge vent. And no, we aren't talking about fake vents here or plastic bits there. The heatsink and finery seriously stretches across the entire back. We aren't joking when we say that the keyboard deck is cold to the touch while gaming. But if you're looking to get this very laptop, just don't choose the RTX 4070 and we'll explain why. Everyone's heard of Asus. They are well known in the PC industry and they arguably make the best things out there. Gaming laptops in particular have always been one of their key focuses, and this new Strix G18 is the next step in that evolution. For a start, it's an 18-inch gaming laptop. The very last time I remembered there to be any kind of 18-inch gaming laptop was the Alienware M18X and the MSI GT83, and those were behemoths. But now in 2023, 18-inch gaming laptops have made a comeback, and Asus, along with many other brands, have much to offer. The Strix G18 features a refinement on the Strix design that most of us are pretty familiar with. This time, however, Asus has actually introduced a subtle colorway option instead of the usual all-round grey. This is the Vote Green colorway, and what Asus has done is use that bright neon green color as an accent. The entire back of the laptop features a thin strip of that Vote Green with the Republic of Gamers text emblazoned on it. And you do also get a paint spec pattern at one of the corners, seemingly inspired by graffiti art and cyberpunk aesthetics. On the bottom, you'll also find that a couple of the rubber feet to be that same Vote Green color as well. You might think that color wouldn't really matter once you actually have the lid up and use the laptop, but in actual fact, with the way the chassis is designed, you'll still be able to see a little bit of that paint spec with the lid up. In our opinion, it is a nice touch that makes the Strix G18 a little bit more unique without totally going for a vastly different look. In addition, you do get a full RGB keyboard, and there's even an RGB light bar that adorns the front. Spectacularly done in our opinion. Indirect RGB lighting really is the way to go for future gaming laptops. It's really pretty. With that said, this is still a laptop that primarily utilizes hard plastic for most of its chassis, so don't expect the utmost in build quality here. It is still a Strix after all. If you're looking for something a little more premium, go for the Zephyrus instead. But part of the reason for doing so is to keep the weight down as humanly possible. Despite being an 18-inch gaming laptop, you're looking at a weight of 3 kilograms or about 6.6 pounds. Sure, that still isn't light by any means, but considering what you're getting here, it's really reasonable. But definitely you do make sure you have the biggest backpack around, because if you're planning to lug this wherever you go, most bags will not fit this. But this is probably the most exciting part. Lift up the lid, it will be greeted with a huge 18-inch panel in a 16:10 aspect ratio. If there's any size of laptop that actually feels like you're using a desktop PC with a desktop monitor, it's the 18-inch. There is just so much space here, and at the usual distance away when using a laptop, the 18-inch size really just fills up your immediate visual vicinity. 14-inch gaming laptops are certainly remarkable, and those do hit a sweet spot for an actual laptop per se, but sometimes bigger is just better. The panel here is also no slouch either. We are looking at an IPS panel with a Quad HD resolution of 2560 by 1600 running at 240Hz with a 3 millisecond response time. You also get all the other jazz such as 100% DCI-P3, Pantone validation, G-Sync, and surprisingly enough, this does also support both NVIDIA Optimus and a Mux switch. More on that later. This is just a beautiful display that's great for almost anything you would like to use it for, but perhaps especially best for gaming. We put in quite a lot of hours with Modern Warfare 2, Cyberpunk 2077, and even CSGO. Visuals and responsiveness was just plain great. Speaking of which, we are incredibly excited for Counter-Strike 2. We don't have access yet, but once we do, we are definitely going to talk about it. So like this video and subscribe to us so we can do more of such fun things. Moving down to the keyboard and touchpad, and this is the same as ever, space galore. Even with a numpad, there is ample space on the keyboard deck. The keyboard itself feels great to type on, to game on, and the touchpad is what you would expect from a Strix. I personally would still prefer if the touchpad was right smack in the middle rather than off-centered to the left, even on an 18-inch, but that's just my preference. To each their own. But here's the one letdown with the laptop, and it's the webcam. It's just 720p. Seriously Asus, this has got to be at least 1080p because this is an 18-inch gaming laptop. Worse still, there isn't any support for Windows Hello authentication, so this is as bare bones as it can get. But now let's talk about ports, which is an interesting affair with this laptop. Due to the design where the entire back is one huge vent, all your ports can only be found on the two sides. You get two Type-A USB 3.2 Gen 2, one Type-C USB 3.2 Gen 2, one Type-C Thunderbolt 4, HDMI 2.1, RJ45 Ethernet, and a 3.5mm headphone mic combo jack. We wish there were more ports given the size, but at least you do get a good amount. And then we touch on performance. Our unit is equipped with an Intel Core i9-13980HX, an NVIDIA GeForce RTX 4070 laptop GPU, 32GB of DDR5 RAM, and 1TB of PCIe Gen 4 SSD storage. With that, let's see all those FPS. Now you might notice that we only managed to cover 5 games this time around. We are actually still in the process of testing the rest of the games, and we'll have a follow-up video for that for all the 10 games. But anyways, remember what we said at the start of this video? Don't choose the RTX 4070 model. The reason for that is very simple. Thanks to NVIDIA, the RTX 4070 laptop GPU only has 8GB of GDDR6 VRAM running on 128-bit bus. Now, the issue isn't the speed and all that, but rather simply the amount of VRAM itself. 8GB is just simply not enough in 2023. In most of the games that we tested, we are already looking at an average of about 6GB of VRAM being used at 1440p. Now, had we tested at 1600p, the native resolution of this display, we would probably be looking at slightly higher, somewhere around 6.5GB. But when we were testing 4K gaming by plugging the Strix G18 to an external monitor, and when we were testing Resident Evil 3 at our usual settings, it crashed, simply because we were maxing out that 8GB VRAM buffer. And that's just with the textures on the high 2GB setting. We turned that down to high half a gigabyte, and still we were getting crashes a bit less frequently, but it still crashed. Now yes, you can turn down the settings and all that, but do you really want to do so? You already spent so much and yet you still have to compromise? It just doesn't feel great. Now, we are going to do a follow-up video featuring all 10 games running across all 3 resolutions, so do wait for that. But the point now is this. The Strix G18 is an amazing laptop. We love the design, the display is awesome, and oh, did we mention that the temperatures were insanely well controlled? Meet 70 degrees Celsius for the GPU under load, or about 80 degrees Celsius for the CPU, and the keyboard deck is cool to the touch while gaming, which is mind-boggling. Everything about it is a great laptop through and through, except for the fact that NVIDIA is kind of letting the gaming laptop market down. Firstly, we reckon that the RTX 4070 laptop GPU isn't going to perform anywhere near a desktop RTX 4070, and it definitely is nowhere near the desktop RTX 4070 Ti. And secondly, 8GB of VRAM simply isn't enough for the near future. Again, this isn't Asus' fault per se, but rather that the RTX 4070 laptop GPU is in a really weird spot in 2023. It should have come with 12GB of VRAM instead of 8, or at the very least, give us 10. So, if you're looking at the Asus ROG Strix G18, we highly recommend that you only consider the RTX 4080 model. After all, if you're already spending that much into a true desktop replacement, go for the best you can. We highly doubt that anyone will be lugging this around daily. Again, we love this laptop. Again, we really do love this laptop. The Strix G18 is pretty fantastic. We are just a little angry and disappointed in NVIDIA. Anyways, if you have any questions, do leave a comment down below and be sure to take a look at it and answer them. Don't forget to subscribe to us and like this video and follow us on all our other social channels. And we'll catch you in the next one. See ya!